Are you or somebody you know the type of person that feels like they never belong in any situation? Are you eccentric, emotional, creative, artistic, but can be a little bit melodramatic and sensitive? Then you're probably type 4 on the Enneagram, the romantic artist, defined by your need to be special or unique. Creative, sensitive, and moody, they're constantly looking to be understood. Now, I am a type 4, and this is going to be so painful for me to relate to and to admit to everybody, but this is very true for me. I think I knew I liked the Enneagram because I read my number 4, and I just related to it so well. So this is gonna hurt a bit, but here we go. So if you're a 4, you know this word, melancholy. Melancholy is the happiness of sadness. Melancholy is just a kind of blah, and 4s are used to being in that state most of the time. When people say, are you happy or sad, and you don't really feel like you're either one of those, you kind of feel in the middle, some disassociation a little bit. 4s are the quintessential hipsters, the goths, they're all those type of people who are thinking that they're unique and that they need to belong somewhere. An easy way to spot a 4 is look for the person that's on the outside of the group. People who are 4s usually cast themselves out on purpose. We have this thing where we want to be accepted so bad, but the way we go about trying to be accepted is almost counterproductive to what we're actually trying to accomplish. I once came home from work and I told my girlfriend, at work nobody really talks to me. They're not really comfortable with me yet. And she's like, oh, well, do you talk to them? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, well, they kind of eat all together and I kind of just go eat in my car. And she's like, how do you expect anybody to know you or like you if you're always eating in your car like all the time? So that's just a peek into a 4's world. We have the most roundabout way of trying to be accepted, but in fact, 4s want to be accepted the most. They value authenticity, or we value authenticity so much that we want to be so far out there and eccentric that you have to like me no matter what. If you like me, it's because you're liking the authentic me. The 4's sin is envy. And does this hit home, because envy for an artist is essential to being. You have to be envious if you're an artist. This is like, most people know that is where your inspiration comes from, is God, I wish I had that. God, I wish I had what he has. 4s are always longing and mourning, and if I was just like everybody else, I would be accepted. If I was like that song, I wish that I could be like the cool kids. That's a 4 song. That's what 4s want. They just long and they stare off into the distance and watch everybody, and they think, if I could just be that perfect somebody and fit into a box like everybody else, everything would be perfect, but I'm just not, and I'm just gonna sit here and wallow with my self-pity. Ooh, that is so 4. They love doing that. They love to wallow. They love to romanticize and play out their life like it is a movie. We love to listen to music and just feel emotions. A 4 will say, I feel sad, so I want to listen to a song that makes me feel even sadder. That's a total 4. That's, if you could spot a 4, that's how you spot them. On social media, 4s are melodramatic. They're mysterious, though, most of the time. They will post art like music, movies that they like, scenes from movies. They'll often post words or things without any explanation and want people to try to figure it out because we're being mysterious or something. We're edgelords. 4s are attracted to the dark side. They're attracted to, horror movies, the blackness, the imagery of skulls and satanic shit, even though it's not really a thing that has to do with anything satanic. It's the aesthetic of it all. 4s they're into aesthetics, and when you realize that about a 4, you'll realize it has nothing to do with the meaning of what these things represent. It just has to do with the aesthetic. We are attached to it. This is why hipsters reminisce about the 80s, the 60s, because you could put an aesthetic to those things. You can put a style, an aesthetic, a retro feel. They love all these buzzwords, retro, aesthetically pleasing, and all this type of thing. At their worst, though, 4s are overly emotional. They can get wrapped up in their self. When they're unhealthy, they're narcissistic. They tend to become self-loathing, loners, isolating themselves, and suicidal at the worst, in the worst part of it, which is tremendously sad. But 4s do have a tendency to be suicidal, because they just have all this emotion flowing up for them, and as a way to control their emotion, they do it in the arts. They put their emotions in the arts. I put my emotion into making videos and into speaking through this camera and doing this right now. This is an expression of my emotion right now. This is just how we work things out, is we just put everything, instead of feeling our emotions, which we do feel our emotions more than say a 3, but 4s, they put it outside, because 4s are the covert type. So remember, every number at the end, so the 2 is at the beginning, the 3 is in the middle, the 4 is at the end. So that means they put it outside. They externalize it. 2s internalize it. They put it inside. So they put all of their emotions on the inside. And 3s forget it completely. They forget that they're an emotional person. So the 3 is the conflicted, the 2 is the obvious, and the 4 is the covert, the undercover, emotional. But we tend to be elitist. If you're not on my level, then you need to get out of my way. They tend to be competitive in art. If there's somebody else doing the same thing that they do, they have that envy in them. They have that longing to just be part of the crowd, even though they do the complete opposite and they go against the crowd so much. You know, Kanye West is a quintessential 4. He's a 4 with a 3 wing, so he's a 3 and a 4, which is probably the most narcissistic type, is a 4 and a 3. Being entrepreneurial and artistic at the same time, those people are very wrapped up in themselves, and it's hard for them to get out of themselves. So a 4 connecting with the 3 wing becomes the aristocrat, or what some people call the aristocrat, where you are this Kanye West type figure. You're artistic, but then you can sell your art. You can put it out. You can get that drive behind you, that motivation, that achievement that 3s have, and all 4s have this inside of them, but it's hard to get out. And on the other side of that, you have the 5 wing. And now the 5 wing is, if you take a look at the Enneagram, I'll put it on screen, but if you take a look at the Enneagram, between the 4 and the 5 is the biggest gap on the Enneagram. And that is intentional, because bridging that gap between 4 and 5 means connecting emotion with logic. That means being completely in your emotions and completely in your logical brain. And to me, this is the philosopher. I connected with 4 to 5 very quickly. It's really hard for me to connect 4 to 3, but putting out these videos is helping me connect that achiever in me, that inner entrepreneurial spirit that I do have. But going from 4 to 5 is almost easier. If you're a 5 and you go backwards to 4, that's almost hard. That's almost impossible for you to do. One more important thing about 4s. To be an artist, you don't have to be a 4. You can be any number on the Enneagram and be an artist. Art is a skill that you are either born with or not, and you may have a personality type that is not a romantic, but you are an artist. Steven Spielberg is a good example of a artist, but he is a 7. He is an enthusiast. There can be gangster rap is a very 8 kind of art, so there's different types of art and different types of artists that can be any number on the Enneagram, but they don't exhibit the artistic trait. It just so happens that there's more artists that are 4 than that aren't. Some popular 4s in the superhero world would be Nebula, Batman. Obviously, Batman is a type 4 for sure. Some famous people who are 4s would be Tim Burton, obviously, Billie Eilish, obviously, Tyler the Creator, Childish Gambino. It goes to show you that they're not just emos and hipsters, but they are other people. They do come in different shapes and sizes. I think Childish Gambino was quoted as saying, "Art is the closest we'll ever be to being somebody else," and that is the most 4 thing I've ever heard. So he is definitely a 4, and there's no doubt about that. They are in the feminine category, and they identify with the magician archetype. In the King, Warrior, Magician, and Lover, those 4 archetypes, they're the magician. So 4s that are worst, we become a romantic snob, a Squidward, a Grinch. These are all 4 archetypes, Squidward and the Grinch. If you think about Squidward and how he just sits inside of his house alone and talks to himself and is like, man, if I was just as simple as SpongeBob and Patrick, then my life would just be perfect, and if I was just as simple as them, you know, my life would be perfect, and I'm an artist and I'm above that type of thing. And we have that artistic snobbiness to us too, that is what we can, that is bad about our personality as well. 4s and their childhood. So it's theorized that as a child, 4s develop either one or 2 ways. One is the outsider and the wound, which is that 4s experienced being the black sheep of the family. They experienced a philosophy that was going on in the home that they didn't agree with. So maybe something like people were saying one thing and acting a completely different way, and the 4 grew up and developed a sense of, I don't agree with this. I'm thinking individually. Another name for the 4 is the individualist also, because they want to be unique and they want to be special and, you know, all that good stuff. The other way to create a 4 at childhood is positive reinforcement of artistic desires or creativity. So when your child comes to you and is showing their art and you show them more affection in that way, that may reaffirm to them that doing art is a good thing, and they feel good when they do it, and now they take that and they are reinforced that into society, you know? So 4s and how they can redeem themselves or how they can become positives. When 4s no longer have to speak or act on every single fleeting emotion that comes up, that's when they're starting to grow. That's when they're moving on to the next stage. 4s' waters run very deep. They're deep people. They're not surface level. There's always more layers to them that you're constantly unraveling and discovering. They ask themselves questions that are thought-provoking, like, why am I here? What's my bigger purpose? If I die tomorrow, what does my life mean? This is the romantic side of us. This is the passionate side of us. This is the creative spirit. They wonder about the world around them and wonder why people do what they do, and they speak philosophically about things like that. And funny enough, when I was looking at the Enneagram and I was going through various sources trying to find different people who taught the Enneagram, all I could find that taught the Enneagram was 1s and 4s for some reason. Now, in the one video, you might remember that I did say that my number is the opposite of 1. And that's because 4s are the rule breakers and 1s are the rule followers morally. And so in art, there is rules, but they're meant to be broken. You know, they're meant to be broken, and 1s don't do that. And so to me, it just gets under my skin, this goody-goodiness, this I don't break rules and I am good. Because as 4s, we know deep down that there's nobody good. Nobody is good. And trying to be good is impossible. You just do your best, and whatever happens, happens. If you mess up along the way, you got to fix it. And, you know, that's how 4s are authentic that way. We deal with ambiguity. We deal with gray areas. We deal with things aren't always this and things aren't always that. 4s do not conform to gender roles or societal norms. They color completely outside the lines. And to them, there's no such thing as male and female. They are going to be who they're going to be. So if they like something and it's feminine or whatever, they're going to do it anyway. That's just how 4s roll. That's just how we do it. We don't care. You'll see them with their nails painted. You'll see them with nose rings. You'll see them with body, you know, tattoos and heels maybe and whatever. We're the eccentric ones. We go out and we do what we want to do, living our authentic life and being our authentic self. And that's what everybody, I think, on the Enneagram can appreciate about 4s, you know. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this type of video, leave a comment too. I don't know if I'm going to continue this video style. This is just like my first test run. I'm just doing a batch of videos and, you know, so we'll see. Until then, peace out, my brothers. Take it easy.